everyone, this is Bethany Meadows, and this is Time to Thrive. On today's episode, we will uncover what it truly means to lead by understanding and leverage our emotions effectively. Our guest is Kim Johnson, powerhouse in executive leadership and personal development, who blends her roles as an executive leadership consultant, master mindset coach, and best-selling author to offer transformative guidance in both personal and professional growth. With over 25 years of experience and more than 49,000 hours of coaching, Kim's background is distinguished by her extensive training and hands-on experience. Her latest book, The Emotional Dilemma of Leadership, explores how emotions influence leadership decisions, impact organizational dynamics, and shape personal leadership styles. Kim offers a refreshing approach to understanding and mastering these emotional forces, drawing from her own entrepreneurial ventures and years of self-development. Welcome to the show, Kim.
Thank you. Thank you for the very nice introduction. I always sound so official when someone else reads it.
You know, the hardest thing to write is your own personal bio.
I'm like, it's just impossible.
Yeah, because, talking about yourself is weird. Okay, so like in every episode, we do the super random questions. So I need you to pick a number between 1 and 5 so you can just get your random question here.
5.
Number 5. What do you keep on your desk or workspace area that boosts your mood?
Oh, well, I might as well just show you, right? Like, would that be funny?
It's
like right here. It's like silly, right? We have the official desk because I'm in like the little recording spot. So, the register. He's like officially all like decked out. One of the original race ones that was made.
not expected.
Well, and he's so I often get accused of when I'm tired and I've been coaching a lot, my husband will say you sound like Yoda because you're talking backwards. But I also love the wisdom and the simplicity of it all. So he sits right there to remind me of be Yoda. So good thing.
Awesome. All right. In your new book, which I have a copy of it right here, No Dilemma, Leadership, you explore how emotions influence leadership. And you don't see a lot of people talking about this. So what inspired you to focus on this subject?
I coach so many leaders. They come for coaching because they are looking for perspective to get an edge. Like my executive coaching is always about how do I get the edge? How do I get the edge? Everyone's always in that how head. And they don't often look at the aspect of emotion because it's not something you're told to do. It's like you put aside your emotions, you put them in a little box off to the side. Fortunately, that doesn't work. We take ourselves wherever we go. So our emotions are part of that journey and they skip over it. And it really is the secret sauce to success. So earlier in the year, I was training a group of leaders and I was on a call with them and I walked out and I was just like, wow, they have no clue how to manage their emotions. And it really just happened rather randomly. I was like, I should write a book on leadership. And within like 15 minutes of thinking that, it was just like zooming down into my head, all these different thoughts. And I was like, well, if I'm thinking about it, then maybe I should think of a name. And the next thing you know, the emotional dilemma of leadership was in my head. And then I spent an entire month downloading information into my head from all of these thoughts and then had to put it together. So it was very quick. It was very impactful. That's pretty much how my content comes out. And it happened quickly.
That's awesome. Well, as a leader, let's talk about why it's so crucial to identify and understand those emotions and how they're driving us and our team.
Well, the first thing is you're dealing with your own emotions all the time. And most people don't like to deal with their own emotions, but they're there and they're present. So however we show up, that causes other people's reactions to show up, intensify or decrease, whatever it might be. So we're forever dealing with everyone's emotions, whether we want to or not. It's just happening. So ignoring it doesn't make it better. It only makes it worse. And you can't truly influence people if you don't understand what emotion they're coming from. If you're trying to force them to do something and they're coming from desperation or panic, the resistance is going to be so high and you're not going to be able to climb that mountain easily. But if you know that's what's happening, then you can help them navigate it. But you can't know it if you're just in anger, irritation, whatever yours is, or you're in panic. Like, forget it. If everybody's panicking, no one's getting out of the house on fire. So somebody has to have a level head. And that's why it was so important to me to dive into this piece.
Well, and so it's not just about leadership style. It's about the ability of the leader to understand how emotions are affecting their team, dynamic even.
Totally. Totally. Well, it starts with yourself. It's the airplane rule. The mask falls, you put the mask on yourself. You don't rush and put it on everybody else. You put it on yourself. And then you say, okay, now that I'm masked up, let me help you. But you have to be able to identify your own emotion. Then you have to identify their emotion. And then you have to figure out what needs to happen to bridge the gaps in between in order to truly influence people. And if you have never done that before, it's very confusing because you're trying to stuff your own emotion away and you wish they would stuff their emotion away. And so everybody says, well, you should just have a stiff upper lip. But it doesn't work because even if you expect people to tell you the truth, they're not going to. That's one of the biggest things that I discuss with leaders. It's nice that you think they're telling you the truth. They're telling you what you want to hear. And it's certainly not the truth.
Years ago, my mom, she was offered a promotion into management where she worked at an insurance company and very quickly learned that she was not built for management when she got a group of women all in menopause at the same time. She just decided management wasn't for her. So not for every, but
well, not. And it takes a very special skill set. And I always joke, and partially I say it's a superpower, but I really mean it. It's a superpower. Curiosity is that when you can approach things with curiosity and edge on everybody else because you're willing to hear, you're not willing to just sit there and take it for what you're discerning it to be, but your curiosity continues to drive it so that you can get more information. And then you can make informed decisions.
So curiosity would be one good strategy. Are there some other strategies that people can use to really improve their emotional awareness?
They really have to do the work on themselves first. So that's like learning to be in the present moment. I'm sure you've heard this before because I know you do self-development work. So when you're in the past, you're usually in a depressive state, like wishing you had done something different, that kind of thing. When you're in the future, you're full of anxiety because you don't know what's going to happen. And as human beings, we lament the past, we go over it. I mean, how many times have we all gone through something and said, oh, I wish I had said this. I wish I had said that, because you replay it over and over and over. And then you go to the future and you're filled with anxiety and it doesn't help because that's the energy you're residing in rather than staying in the present moment. So as leaders, if we can stay in the present moment more, we have more power to influence ourselves and influence others. Yes, you have to future pace to figure out where you want to go, but we spend way too much time out there. And that's the issue.
Well, in the past, for a lot of people, is regret and shame, and that doesn't get us anywhere.
Yep.
Yeah. And like you said, the future is worry, anxiety, uncertainty. Of course, we live in a world now that's really hard to get away from.
Well, that's every company does that to try to influence you. So that if they know humans respond more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. So they use that tool to put you in just enough pain to make you do something. And then once they make you do that, then they've got you. But the key is you don't have to listen to everything that's said. Not everything that's said is true, as we are now learning over and over and over again. And not every thought we have is true. And not every thought is worthy of paying attention to. But if you're not aware and you're not willing to be aware, you'll never actually be able to guide yourself through the process.
Well, this kind of leads into that. I think a lot of leaders struggle with frustration or fear. Frustration in that things aren't going the way they perceive it should go, or fear that they're not enough. What are some ways leaders can kind of reframe those emotions in a positive way?
Well, the first thing is when an emotion shows up, you have to debrief it. What's it trying to help you with? Because emotions are a guidance system, if you will, and they're here to help us. We have the gift of having them. So we have to use them. We have to actually ask the question, what is this emotion trying to tell me right now? So fear is an excellent emotion if you need it. If you have driven your car through deep water, which happens often in the South here, and you need to get out of the car, you need to have fear happen, first of all, to not drive through the deep water. And it's like it showed up to tell you, don't go there, don't go in there. So there's a vast value in debriefing the emotions ahead of time. And then you can pick and choose if that information is valid in the moment. So I'm very conscientious of saying to my clients all the time, well, is the threat real or perceived? Because, and they'll say, well, I guess I'm making it up. And as soon as they know that, they start laughing at themselves. Yes, I know there's not a pterodactyl flying through my window, although it feels like that's what's going to happen. And then it's like, okay, well, if there's not a pterodactyl coming through the window, then what can you do? What possibilities are there? And then they start to come back into the moment where they can think about it. But the very most critical aspect of it is debriefing those emotions, always.
Right. And another aspect of emotions is like we can sometimes control them for a period of time, but then we get put under, if we're under stress or we're under some sort of pressure, you know, that's when it cracks, right? But we can only hold on to it for so long, depending on our resilience.
Right.
And just like physical resilience, how many times can we pick up the weightlifting bar before our muscles just fail?
Mhm.
And same thing with our emotions. How many times can we, keep those things in check before it fails? So how would you, um, what practices or strategies or things that leaders can use to help build that muscle of resilience, emotional resilience?
Well, it's, back to basics of like Mr. Miyagi, the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. When you do the fundamentals consistently, you don't get to the point of empty. So I do not allow my clients to get empty, because once you get empty, it's very hard to come back up. I just always hear my father talking about never let the truck get empty, Kim, because then all the grit is in the bottom and you're having that go in. Don't do that. So it's the same thing with this. Don't let the grit get into you. Have rituals in your day built in so that you can bounce back up. So I always have, and when I say always, I mean I always have my morning. I get up really early so that I have that hour and a half, 90 minutes hardcore by myself. So I can do whatever I want. If I want to work on content, I can. If I want to sit and watch an episode of Seinfeld for the 100th time, I can. If I want to have hot chocolate with marshmallows, I can. But that's how I fill back up. I also have, like, I have a habit of walking. Like, I love to walk. So my clients, I've adapted my need of walking, not sitting still. Like, it's a very big deal for me to sit and be on screen because I walk all day long and while I'm talking to clients. But that's for a reason of keeping me focused and being able to do it. But it makes me not become exhausted and drained in the process of working with people. And 49,000 hours plus of coaching would kill somebody on an average person. But for me, because I'm able to move, I'm out walking on my farm, I've created a system that works for my brain and my body and my soul all together. So I think when you start to figure out, well, what do I need for that triad to work? You can develop things, like a really big one for a lot of people is they get in work and they don't take a break until they walk out the door. Some of them will be like, "Do you know I had to pee for like 4 hours today?" And I'm like, "What are you, a toddler? Like you didn't go? Like, get up and go pee. Take care of yourself." "Well, I don't want to drink water, Kim, because then I'll have to pee." Okay, that's a natural bodily function. All humans do it. Drink water, you're dehydrated. That's why you have headaches all the time. But they don't want to do the fundamentals because it's inconvenient. So the very first thing is, in order to build up the ability to go beyond and be a better leader, set a better example, take care of yourself in the right ways so that you can plug back in. Even if it's 5 minutes, that's why I do a 5-minute podcast every morning, because people can listen for 5 minutes and plug into something that's a different thing. It's meant to be that for the quick fix.
Give us the name of your podcast real quick.
Yes. Good morning from the chicken coop. Following every day, legitimate from my chicken coop, because it's my happy place.
So I think what you've been talking about kind of leads into my next question really well, in the sense that it is very important to know ourselves and know what serves us, what doesn't serve us, so that we can make the best decisions. Like your decision to walk, coaching all day, because that's what helps you focus and it, lends to your healthy lifestyle. Um, Before we become self-aware, we have to be self-reflective, right?
Yeah.
And being self-reflective in leadership, um, because we're busy and distracted and have the big long to-do list and all the things, self-reflection needs to be intentional. We need to be like doing it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some ways that leaders can kind of incorporate reflective practices into their routines to become more in tune and self-aware?
Well, I think, first of all, it's part of that habit of debriefing yourself. That's the way I like to do it. Say it to all my clients, because when you debrief yourself, you're like, okay, what worked? What didn't work? What could be better? And so when you do that regularly, whether it's daily or weekly, I prefer to do it daily for myself. Like, what was great about today? What could have been better today? Where can I make a shift in this? Which is how I came to Fridays are not coaching days. Fridays are days where I can do things like this, or I could do stuff that I feel compelled to move me forward. But they're not days just to coach. Coaching takes place the 4 other days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But it's looking at how you feel. So when you get the emotional cues, and then saying, what is this trying to tell me? What's working, what's not working, and how can I bridge the gap? You've got to be willing to debrief, and then you can make better decisions. And sometimes you can't figure out how to fix it, but at least you know what's working and what's not working. And then when you're in a better frame of mind, then you can go back and say, okay, these are all the things that are not working. Now I can look at that and say, okay, I've got this list of like 5 things that are not working. What is wrong? I've got to really sit down and check this. I've got to put it in the right place. But that's the most effective way that I've ever found. I don't like to complicate things. I like to keep them super simple, find ways to course correct very quickly, because I don't like the monsters to grow large. I want to squish them when they're tiny.
The good analogy. I think I want to throw in there too, having a coach, because a lot of leaders don't. They're not a coach. They think they may have some misconceptions about what having a coach means. But if you have the right coach, they can call BX on you
All the time. Mine does.
You're like specifically not aware of a situation, and they will call you out. They will say, hey, there's an area and you need to focus on that. You need to see this and be aware of this. So
And we'll always ask, do you have a coach? And the answer is yes, I have a coach, because I need someone that I can go to and say, well, am I crazy with this? Is this an idea? Is this something good? Why am I stuck with this? Because I don't always see things, because everything, when you listen to all the voices in your head, it is, as I say in the bus book, like in my book, Who's Driving Your Bus? There's a cast of characters on a bus in your head, and they're all talking all the time, and they never shut up. So you have to listen to them all, and they all have opinions, and they all have likes and dislikes. And it is so important to have somebody outside of yourself that is neutral. That is the key to this. You've got to have someone that's neutral that can say, okay, let's sort through all of this. Because if they have an agenda, look out, they're going to be not the person that you need. So you can't ask someone on your team. You have to go to something that's completely neutral. Right. That's what people will go to clergy. They'll go they go to, they think that somebody's like, going to be in their family potentially, but I don't always think family is the best way to go. And that's why coaching is so important, or a mentor, somebody that you can go to that has your best interest at heart, but also is willing to be neutral.
And doesn't necessarily have the same kind of skin in the game in the sense that they can tell you the truth
Exactly.
and be fine with it. You're also a mindfulness practitioner.
Yes.
How has mindfulness influenced your approach to coaching and leadership?
Geez, pretty much everything. Mindfulness has really changed my life. I'm a horrible meditator. Let me just say this to everybody out there. I am a horrible meditator. I've tried so many times. I continue to try because I am convinced that one day it's just going to happen and I'm going to love every second of it and enjoy it beyond words. Till then, though, I had to figure out something because I don't sit still well. And that's something that I have never done. And that has influenced me. So I'm like always on the go. I joke around that, I'm of the error that, it's better to burn out than fade away, listening to Def Leppard. So I tend to like just overdo all the time. And I had to teach myself something. I had to find a way to adapt, to be in the moment. So I actually adapted a practice that I came up with for myself where I use my cell phone camera and I take pictures of things around me that I might just walk right by. I might never notice them. And common things throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, I can pick up the camera and I can say, how many moments did I pause today? And did I look at something and say, I really looked at it? Now, this can be something as simple as I look for patterns in the rocks, the crack, something different. I find little things that I can look at. Of course, I am a little chicken obsessed. So because I have chickens, I do take pictures of chickens a lot, but I think it's worthy. Like I was sitting in my studio, this studio we're recording in the other day, and I don't know if you can see this, but this is a picture that I took of my chicken who was outside. That's right outside my studio door. And she was like posing, making all these poses. And I was like, my God, look how beautiful she is. And I ran over and I started taking pictures and she was like doing her little posy thing. And I was like, the bird, what a great, and at the end of the day, I was so excited to go through them again. And I was like, see, that's like, those are moments of joy, moments of things you notice. And that brings you back to saying, okay, I did pause. I did stop. I did hunker down for a minute.
Yeah. We live on a lake, and every time go down the hallway and enter into the living room, is just a bank of windows, and the sun is reflecting off the lake and, the trees and all the things. And I always stop. I just don't walk through. I would stop and I look and I'll be just so grateful.
Yeah.
This is where I live, and, we sit out there a lot and just watch the birds and watch the fish jumping, and, that gives us joy. So I know it's right. I think, and not, genders are different. Men and women can be different. Like the type of emotions or things that they struggle with would be different. A lot of leaders struggle with that balance between having emotional intuition and logical reasoning. Very much so. So what advice would you have for leaders who struggle with that and how they can strike that?
Well, it's an interesting question because I am obsessed with working with imagination and creativity. And the more you stay in your imagination and creativity, the more gifts you develop in your other skills. It's cross pollination between your emotions with imagination and creativity. So when I have people, male or female, who are more on the logic side of leadership, I will say to them, this is time for you to put on your imagination jacket and to say, if I was in my imagination and I'm approaching this with creativity, what could I assume this other person may be feeling or thinking right now? Put yourself in their shoes and think about it, but not just telling them to put themselves in the shoes because they're going to take their logic head and jump in those shoes. You have to take your imaginative mind and go in those shoes. So there's a step before it because someone will always say to me, well, I put myself in his shoes and I did it. And I'm like, no, were you in your imagination? Did you put the jacket on? And they'll always joke, no, we'll put the jacket on. And I will joke like it's like Joseph in the electric colored dream coat, like, her lunch. Make it fabulous. Have a jacket that looks like that. Think about it, pause, put the jacket on and go, all right. And for most of us, we all have triggers to our childhood that help us get back to that imagination, creativity. So for me, it's Play-Doh, crayons, coloring. So I have all those supplies here in the office. Like right across from me, I've got like probably 14 colors of Play-Doh, unmixed, by the way, not in containers that are mixed, but I keep them there because I can just go into that place. As soon as I pick it up, it's tactile. I can smell it. I can feel it. And all of a sudden, I can get into that imaginative state. One of my clients in London, very logical engineer who he creates software. He's a software engineer for worlds for video games. So he builds the world you play in. And he's very logical. And he was getting stuck a lot. And one of the things we did was we built a Lego table in his office and we bought all kinds of Legos and not the kits because he was offended by the kits. He doesn't like it when they tell you what to do. So we bought all kinds of Legos and he put them in this big giant table that was like 10 feet long by 4 feet wide.
And wow. See, this commitment to Legos. Wow.
Because he said he loved him when he was a kid. So I said, okay, well, get some stools. And he's like, well, I don't want people touching my Legos. And I was like, but this is a great team exercise to release it. And you guys can discuss while you're doing Lego work. And so he was like, I'll think about it. So he kept it to himself for about 4 months. And then he decided he could share and he got shares. And now he's like, people randomly come in, sit down, play with Legos, get up, leave, go back. And things are so much better because saying that piece because you're shifting, you're able to go back to a place where you knew you were creative, you know? And it's, he did have to make a rule about no judgment of what you built on the Legos because people were telling people, well, you could have done this and it would have been better because they're engineers, right? Like that's what they do. They critique everything. So once he made the rule, it became a lot better. But I mean, there are all these little tips and tricks but you have to go back and know yourself. Like, what are those little things that you did when you were little that made you feel super imaginative and creative?
That's very cool. I actually have a prayer journal that is black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And the pages all have like different flowers and nature, different things all over them in between all of the prayer journal prompts and things. And I color them with highlight. Like I got a special pack of highlighters in different colors, and because it just pops off the black and it just
Right.
looks so moving when it's done. But while I'm working in my prayer journal, I'm, coloring in a flower or doing, other things. So it's the same kind of idea, just getting in that, mode where you can connect in the right space for what you're doing.
I have an artist that actually uses, believe it or not, like she's an unbelievable artist, can paint big wall murals, but she uses paint by number for relaxing. She said to me, I'm going to try this. And I was like, wait, what? And she said, paint by number. And I said, is that so? She's like, yes, I don't want to think about it. And I was like,
I guess not.
right to the paint by numbers. And then she started doing, she's like, it's so great. I just, fours go here. And this, she's like, I don't have to think about it. But it's the same release. And most people did paint by number as kids. So we had fun with it.
Well, we only have a certain amount of time to talk, and it's like this whole amazing book. So is there something that you felt when you wrote the book that you really hoped people would get out of the book? Like what would be your like number one that you would want people to know about the book, or insights or exercises or whatever it is? I just don't want to skip over something if it was important. So
I think for me, the section that came out last that I didn't anticipate that I would write was the coaching sessions about those leaders, 5 leaders, and getting in their heads and being able to teach other people how to think through something. That was my idea. I thought I was going to be close to done with the book. And then all of a sudden there was this lightning bolt again of like, well, if you did this, then this would come in. And I was like, wish I didn't know that now. Once I knew it, I had to do it. But that puts all of it together because you're in it. You hear my side of it, you hear their side of it, and you see how they blend and how the right questions bring you to different conclusions. And um, that the part for me that I was just really the most excited about.
Yeah, I love that. And, there's so much insight. Like anytime we get into a group of people
Hmm.
and people are sharing and talking about things that are related to what we do, we always learn.
Oh
So
wait,
that kind of expression in your book is brilliant because it's a different kind of learning. It's like you get to pick out what is relevant for you in that situation.
totally, complete. Yeah, it was my most that was the most difficult part to write, but it was the most fun part to write, if that makes sense.
Where do you see the field of leadership development heading, especially with all the changes that we have going on in the world right now and the pressure, the stress, the upheaval, all the things. Where do you kind of see it? And of course, we have AI, which is, I've experienced this myself. You can do things faster, but it also means you're doing things faster when you're doing more. And sometimes at the end of the day, I can feel like my brain is about to explode. So, I think it's just going to, well, and I'll let you speak to it, but I feel like it's just going to require more intentionality.
I think that everything leads us back to the moment of being really aware of what is happening. You use the word intentional, I use the word awareness. Are you aware of how you're showing up? Are you aware of the effects of things? The ripple effect, the butterfly effect. Are you aware of what's going on? Could you speak to the level of the people you're leading? How well do you know them? And like, if you're at the top of a large company, are you aware of what your people know down below and their experience of it? And if not, then maybe you need to do that now so that you can be a better leader. You know, it's one of the strong points of someone like Richard Branson going to the bottom and saying, let me work in the mailroom. Let me figure out what this is like so that he has a scope of everybody. And I think that's what's so important. And I think we're going to see more of that as time goes on.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of running out of time. So, if you have one or two most important key takeaways from what we've talked about in this episode, what would that be? What would be the thing that you would want people to most remember?
Your emotions are talking to you and you need to listen. If you're not listening, you're doing yourself a disservice and you need to pay attention to them because they are truly the best system that we have for progressing forward. And if we are not listening to them, we're siloing them, we're silencing them, we're sedating them. We are taking away a massive part of our success strategy.
Yeah, that's great. Where can people find you, locate you, get your book, all those good things?
Uh, Hit our website, mindsetwithkim.com, and the books are on Amazon, but there are also the links are on the website that you can find everything over on the website. And we even have a basic mindset course that's free over there. You can sign up, take the course, and learn about some basic mindset stuff just to help you in the journey of it.
Okay, great. Well, I'll get all those links for you and I'll put them in the description, whether it's on YouTube or on all the different podcasting platforms. And so if people want to just go down below, they can flick through and learn more about Kim.
Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you right back. Thank you so much.